Start this build off by picking up some rustic alder from the local hardwood store and unload it from my truck. Now, I'm working out of my garage here in Southern California, and I've had different shops over the years and lived in different places, but I've always been told it's not the size of the shop, it's how you use it. So we're going to stick to that mantra. Once I have everything off the truck, I'm cutting them down to size and then going to rip them straight. When you buy hardwood from your local supplier, mine comes with one straight edge, meaning one edge of this board from the factory, from the hardwood store, is straight. So I can run that straight edge up against the fence to rip the non-straight edge straight. So that's what I'm going to do here with all of these boards. Make sure they're looking nice and pretty. Once all of that is done, I'll lay them out to make sure that I have the correct height and the correct width. I'm going to take my pencil and mark some lines across all these boards. This is actually for my domino joiner. Now, this is an expensive tool that I don't use a whole lot, but when I do get to use it, I will use it. And as you can tell right here, I haven't used this in a while, so I'm trying to figure out the right domino to use and how deep that the bit should go. And yeah, I'm just not going to pretend that I know everything. I'm going to figure it out again right in front of you guys. So we're in this together. But you can see those are going to go right between each board. And this has nothing to do with strength. This only has to do with alignment. That way, when we go to glue them up, everything is nice and flat. This is a real-time shot of the domino joiner in action. You can see that bit going back and forth as it creates a mortise or a hole in the wood that the domino can then slide into. So I have to do this to all those lines that I made on one side and then repeat it on the other. Once all that's done, I'm going to put some stickers underneath all these boards. Don't forget to do this because I've done this in the past where you go to glue on top of something else. In this case, it would have been some nice birch plywood, and you go to take it off and it sticks. So make sure to put some stickers down. This will prevent that from happening. Once that's done, I'm going to get my glue and start to glue everything up and get all these dominoes in those holes so that we can get everything put together nice and tight. I use Type-On 2 for interior. This is, again, a barn door for a house. I'm not really sure if I know the difference between 1, 2, and 3 other than 3 is for outdoors and the strength associated with it, but I've always had good luck with Type-On 2 and then Type-On 3 for exterior. Not sure if you guys care about that, but that's just what I think. So I'm going to glue all these up, get all these nice and tight together. These dominoes really do help, I will say, versus just gluing without dominoes. I remember I used to not use them in the past, or even biscuits, and biscuits don't even do the alignment as well as a domino does. Festool is just very precise in their engineering and in their tools. So when these slide together, they make a very nice fit, and the tops are very flush. Now that I have everything clamped up, I'm going to let that sit for a few hours, come back, take it off, and then start to sand. I've been using these mesh nets instead of regular sandpaper, and I actually like it. I get a lot of airflow through the vacuum system, and it sands just as good in my opinion. They say it's for automotive, but if they sell them at the hardwood store, then they're used for wood as well. I'm trying to flip this door over so I can sand the other side, and you can't see in this frame, but my garage has only 8-foot ceilings, and well, this door is 50 inches wide, sitting on top of, I don't know, another 50 inches, and so you do the math. And then I come over to this side, and then my garage door opener is hanging down too far, so I'm struggling that. And so I decided to maybe just risk the whole build of it falling off and breaking with maybe an inch to spare right there, but we did it. You can't give up that easily. We're going to repeat the same process of sanding on the other side. Once that's done, I'm going to do my water pop, and since I don't have a spray bottle on hand, I'm going to damp 2 rags and just wipe this down. In theory, what this is supposed to do is raise the grain of the wood. All those fibers stick up after you've sanded, and then you can come back and sand again once everything dries. Now at this point in the video, what I tried to attempt to do was time-lapse this so that you can see the water drying off this barn door, and it's kind of working, but it's not as cool as I thought it would be. So maybe just click that like button anyways. Once that's done drying, I come back and hit it with the 220 grit to get it nice and buttery smooth. I cut this barn door originally 2 inches longer than it should be, and so what I'm going to do is come back with my track saw and cut it perfectly square. One side perfectly square. Once that's done, I'm going to take my tape measure and measure the exact length that I need and repeat the process. If you don't have a track saw, you can still do this with a regular circular saw, but I would really suggest getting a track saw. I remember when I got this, it really changed my skill set and just the cleanliness of my builds, the professionalism. I did get the Festool, but Festool isn't the only ones that build track saws. You can get DeWalt, you can get Milwaukee, Makita, there's Craig Jig makes one. So definitely shop around. In my opinion, they all spin a blade and they all ride along a track. So I still ended up buying Festool. Anyways, now I'm gonna do the borders, the details of this barn door. I cut these down to 3.5 inch widths, and I'm going to do the sides first, then fill in the insides, and then do what I call the K. Why do I call it the K? Because it kind of looks like a K. Don't know if that's really what you're supposed to call it, but with all my years of schooling, that's what I'm gonna go with. Repeat the same thing on the other side. Cut this board down and add some glue. Pretty simple. You guys, if you're watching to this point, you're probably thinking, man, I could build this. This isn't too complicated. The one thing I really learned as I've been progressing in this business is the material you use will also make you look like and perform much better. Here's where I run into an issue of clamp not being able to work there, so I got to come up with some other solution and look around, scratch my head, and find some scraps on the floor. But there's always a way to clamp things down, you just got to get a little creative. But back to what I was saying about the species of wood that you use or the type of wood you use, it really does make a difference. You can go through all these same steps with pine or Douglas fir and it just won't look as nice as this rustic alder. I could also do the same thing with white oak or walnut and it would be that much nicer, even though it's the same exact method and the same skill set. So keep that in mind when you're doing your projects and you're building, that the type of material you're using and what you're trying to sell can make you look like a better carpenter or a worse one. Here's a close-up. I just couldn't wait to show you what it was looking like, and I think it's looking pretty sweet. I really like this rustic alder. It gives that like western feel, that farmhouse. Just feel like I'm in the country with this type of wood species. I've been working with a ton of white oak and a ton of walnut, but it kind of gets old and it's nice to work with another species like this. Now here's that K that I was talking about. I have these 3 pieces. You can kind of get a rough idea of what it's going to look like, but I have to find center of the door to do that first cross member, and that's what I'm doing here. Finding center, then cutting this down to the correct length so I can fit that in appropriately to where it goes exactly before I move on. Once that's clamped, I'm going to do the diagonal pieces. I lay them out on top exactly where I want them to go and then mark where the cuts will be. This will be the easiest way to find your cuts without having to do any math, without having to use any squares to try and figure out angles. Just lay it directly on top, exactly where you want it, and mark each side with a pencil, and he'll give you the perfect fit every single time. I dry fit these to make sure they fit perfect before gluing them. Don't make this mistake of gluing before dry fitting. It's just a big no-no. And if you've made it this far, I really would love if you subscribe to this channel. Definitely would help me out. Click that like button, the notification bell. There's going to be more videos to come as I continue to progress in my journey as a carpenter and continue to do fun projects. But as you know, it takes time to film everything, and I'll be honest, I haven't filmed everything, and I apologize, but I'm going to start being better at that. Here's what the door looks like. We've made it to completion, and I think it came out pretty nice. Would you rock this in your house? Let me know. Hey, if you enjoyed this build and want to see more videos like this, it's actually really fun to make, so let me know by subscribing, hitting a like. Oh, this is a big door, and I gotta get it to Idaho somehow. So anyways, you're watching TMBRMAN TV. Thank you for all the support, and we'll see you next time.